morning, everybody. It's good to be with you virtually on this beautiful November day.
We may have visits from children who are excited as well as we go along.
We're working on learning how to be respectful during church time. All right, let's sing together. At the table, all are eating. Jesus, thank you for this time of music this morning. Music that reminds us what's important, that reminds us of your endless grace and your joy, and that we can hold on to that when things don't seem to go how we hope or plan, and that it's okay. We thank you for music, and I pray, Jesus, that this morning everyone, just a minute, we're not quite finished. I pray this morning that everybody who was listening to music this morning, that they were able to connect with you in their own way, in the ways that they needed this morning. Pray that you bless the rest of the service and everyone's experience. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Kezia and Vince and Ginny and Wesley for leading us this morning. So good morning, everyone. My name is Haley Larson, and I'm the pastoral intern here at Brown Line Church. We hope that music and prayer has helped you to slow down this morning and settle into worship. A special hello if you are new or newer joining us this morning. Brown Line Church is both a local and online community based in Chicago, but drawing many from beyond Chicago each Sunday. So if you are joining in this morning, we'd love to hear in the chat where you are joining from. This church was started to help people find spiritual health and depth, especially for those who feel more comfortable in progressive settings rather than religious settings. And our guide here is Jesus. There are religious settings that present faith in Jesus as an exclusive or divisive thing, either you're in or you're out. But our experience of that is entirely different. For us, following Jesus has always made us more inclusive, never more closed off, more loving and more intentionally living into connection and justice. Today's service is a bit different from our norm. In place of our message this morning, we will be having our annual meeting. So even if you are newer with us, this is a great opportunity to hear more about Brown Line's story and our community here. So this will be sort of like a family conversation this morning. And whether you've been with us for a while or this is your first Sunday, everyone is more than welcome to be a part of things. So with that, I will pass things over to Maria and to Vince to get us started with our meeting.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Sorry, I muted myself. Good morning, everyone. My name is Maria Santillan. I'm broadcasting live from the Davis Theater. For those that don't know me, my name is Maria Santillan. I'm a member of the financial board for Brown Line Church, and I'm excited to get started. A special Sunday today as we'll be going through our annual service and answering some questions. But before we do that, Vince, I'll pass it over to you to set the stage for us.
Thank you, Maria. I love that you are broadcasting live from the Davis Theater. That is awesome. It's so good to see everybody's names here on Zoom, and so good to get to sing with you all and get to sing with, I felt like Wesley and Ginny, their harmonies weren't quite right today, but they were really close, right? Like they were really singing along. So it's good to be with you guys. And we do hope that the music was really, really good this morning. I get the pleasure of like kind of kicking us off for the annual meeting. Yes, Maria, we talked about setting the stage. And so what I thought I would do briefly before we get in, just to kind of like get us, I don't know, thinking in a new way, maybe perhaps, is tell the story of our church in a way that I haven't before, because it kind of occurred to me recently in the last couple weeks. And so helping us understand like where we've come from and where we're going. I hope that this feels useful to anybody, no matter how long you've been a part of the church. One thing I thought I'd have us all do is maybe if we can get like in the chat here in Zoom, if you would put just a number for how many years you have been a part of Brown Line Church, that would be really cool. And we'll just kind of see the numbers fill up the chat here, and we can kind of get a picture of the diversity that's in the space in terms of like, how long have you been here? How long have you been connected? Yeah, so as you guys are doing that, I want to tell you the story of the church in a new way. So 8 years ago, we started this church. And really, I think what we were focused on most was this wide-eyed, optimistic belief in experiential faith, that there is a living God. Faith is not just a set of ideas, it is a lived relationship with a God that can interact back with us no matter who we are. And in that time, we were like, when we started, we were all about encouraging people, no matter what the situation, no matter who they were, that in each moment, God is alive and likes you. God is not looking at you like over the rim of God's glasses like a librarian saying, shh, quiet down. God likes you and wants to speak into your situation. And so just ask God, what are you saying? What are you saying in this moment, God? I think that was like the heartbeat of our church. And this was born out of our heritage in vineyard churches, which were well known for experiential faith. And it was born out of our desire to be what we understood as a centered set rather than a bounded set. And what we mean by that is that we don't believe faith is a circle, a boundary that you're either inside of or outside of. We believe that there is just a magnetic God at the center of all things, and that God is drawing everybody, all people near, no matter who they are and what categories they fit into. Centered set rather than bounded set. And all of that kind of led us to this. We were all about experiential faith, a living God. And it's a little bit probably overly simplistic to like say that was our only basic guiding principle for the first 4 years of our church. But I just want to like throw that out there because I don't think it's far off, that like there is a living God was kind of the thing that drove us for the first 4 years of our church. This question of, what are you saying, God? What are you saying right now to me in this situation, to us in this situation? And that was awesome. I think that was such an important time for our church, our first 4 years in a materialistic, flat, and cynical world. We were trying to prize trust and innocence that God could break through with heart and with guidance for us. And I think that was really great. So that was the first 4 years. But over the course of those first 4 years, I do think that something started to happen. It started to become increasingly clear to us that some of the assumptions we'd inherited to try to discern how to answer that optimistic, wide-eyed question, what are you saying, God, in this moment? Some of the assumptions we'd inherited, I think we're starting to feel dissatisfying. Those assumptions felt not always right. Those assumptions felt not always loving, maybe out of step with Jesus, who has so anchored us since the beginning of this church. And that was both for like really big societal questions. How do we make right the wrongs done to our LGBTQ friends and include sexual minorities fully in our spiritual community, never walled off from things like marriage or leadership? How do we do that? But also for like really personal ones too as well. How do we listen to God when our personal values or goals that are animating us are different from previous generations? How do we listen to God when we're stressed out in the middle of the week and can't find balance, but still have a bunch of work to do or classes to take or kids to manage? The more we tried to learn what was behind all of this, there was one clear commonality, I think, in the assumptions about God that we'd inherited that didn't feel quite right. There was one clear commonality, and it was that they had their source in writings and teachings that were exclusively by white Euro-American, usually evangelical Christian men. It was like all the assumptions were only coming from that source. And what we realized is like, wait, those aren't at all the only conversations that are being had about Jesus and about faith. Those don't have to be the only source we go to if pieces about them are feeling dissatisfying. And they are the loudest voices out there. They're the most societally powerful voices. So we can tend to think that they're the only voices out there that are talking about God or talking about faith or talking about Jesus, but they are not. And importantly for me, there are many white Euro-American Christian men who are contributing very helpfully to more diverse conversations about God, not just to the ones that are exclusively white Euro-American men talking to each other. And phew, like that makes me feel happy. I'm not alone. And so for the next 4 years, I think there was a shift. We shifted away from the question, what are you saying, God? That living God question. And what we were trying to ask now is the question right before that question. Before we can ask, what are you saying, God? We have to ask, who is this God that Jesus shows us? And what new to us, different theological sources can we learn from to answer that question more satisfyingly? Theological sources that are not exclusively based in the starting points or assumptions of white evangelical men. And this has led us to make lots of decisions and to change and tweak and hone what we have done in that first 4 years into something different for these next 4 years. Decisions like leaving our affiliation with Vineyard Churches. And again, this is sort of overly simplifying it. There was a lot more going on over these 8 years, but I don't think it's so far to say that we underwent this shift about 4 years ago. We moved from living God questions to loving God questions. That's what's driven us for the last 4 years. Let's really get clear on who this God of love is that Jesus shows us. That's what's been the most important thing, because what's felt so deeply important to us is it's not worth following the guidance of a God of kind of love, but also kind of punishment. A God who needs violence in order to fully love. That's not satisfying to us. It's not satisfying for us to follow the guidance of a God of love for some, but not love for all. It's not satisfying to follow a God of love when you're good and deserve it, but otherwise it's a God of wrath. A God of love for those in power, but a God of neutrality or indifference for those with their backs against the wall. Or a God of all-controlling power for whom love is secondary. And really, it's just important that we defend that God's power. So we explain away the senseless suffering that people experience as God's will or part of the mysterious plan. I think that over these last 4 years, as we've leaned into these loving God questions, we just decided we are not going to settle for a picture of God that is less than loving. We're not going to settle for that. We need to have a centerpiece in that centered set that we're all kind of drawing toward the magnet in the middle. We need to have that magnet in the middle be truly a loving picture of a loving God. And that conviction, I think, has been really, really fruitful over these last 4 years. So because the reason I kind of split our history up into the first 4 years and the next 4 years is I think right now we're maybe at another turn. I don't know, maybe we're not, but this is the way I'm telling the story today. And I think this is interesting to take on. I think that we're at another turning point because now we are ready to integrate our time spent focusing on a living God with our time spent focusing on a loving God. We're ready to return back to that trust-filled living God question. God, what are you saying? What are you saying right now in this moment to me, to our church, to our community, to this group of people? What are you saying, God? But we're ready to do that with the seasoning and the maturity of the last 4 years that we just spent, really focusing hard on what makes this God truly loving. I think without realizing it, Kyle, Haley, and I, the pastors, all this last year, I think we've been doing this without even realizing it. Our sense has been what we are hearing from Jesus is a new thing that has been seasoned by the last 4 years and bringing us back early to that first question. What are you saying to us, God? And so we've been asking that question, and we have been bringing up, actually, there is a specific words of Jesus that have come to us again and again as the pastors of this church, and that's why I want to bring it up here on our annual meeting Sunday, which is Jesus' words in Matthew 11. It's, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." It goes on, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me," Jesus says, "for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. My yoke is easy," Jesus says. "My burden is light." We feel, as we are stepping back and trying to ask that innocent, trust-filled question again, what are you saying, God? What are you saying right now? We feel that God is saying the words of Matthew 11 to our church. What is the whole point of a church? The whole point of a church is to say, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden." The human condition for people in cities today is feeling burdened and exhausted perpetually, and therefore unable to join joyfully or purposefully in what God is doing in the world. And we think God is doing things in the world. God is in the business of bringing justice to the oppressed and comfort to the hurting and growth to the humble. And if we are zombies, depleted, bitter, compulsive, we cannot participate in that. We cannot find the joy in being a part of that work. So our church wants to be a place of rest in the midst of a reality that is just always go, go, go. Bigger, better, faster, more, right? We want to be a place of recuperation and refueling in the midst of that. And obviously it takes work to do that. Like it takes us coming together and actually pulling things off. We are having a meeting for a reason, but what's our core conviction? It comes back to this: come to me, all you who are weary, and I will give you rest. It comes back to that. No matter what we're doing, no matter what burdens we are placing on ourselves, on people in our church, we need to make sure that the net, what's going on here when all the additions and subtractions are made, is that people are brought to rest. People are shown that the burden of being somebody who's connected with God is so much lighter than the burden of trying to do your life alone in the midst of American society. So that's my kind of like opening treatise for our annual meeting. I wanted to start us off with something that is hopefully mildly inspiring. I wonder how the idea of telling the story of our church this way, the first 4 years, the next 4 years, and then the turning point that we are at once again, I wonder if that makes sense. I think that we are combining the living God and the loving God that we have so focused on in these different seasons of our church. And the drumbeat underneath that now is, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. And I'm just looking now like at our chat, and I'm seeing everybody who's written in like how long they've been a part of the church, and that's great. And I wonder if you've just joined us in the last little bit and you can still add to the chat here of like, this is how long we've been a part of what's going on here. We would love to hear it, because I do think that given that there's such a mix in terms of like how long some people have been here since the beginning. There's a few folks, I even see some names like on the names of the Zoom list that I can see right now who have been here since the very beginning. And then others have been here only in the last year or two. And that is really cool that we have that mix. And so I thought,
Hi, everyone. I'm not sure what is going on with technical difficulties, but if you want to hang tight, we'll get stuff sorted out and be right back.
For anyone curious about what's playing at the Davis, The Eternals is playing, Dune, and the Wes Anderson movie French Dispatch.
hi everyone, can people hear me?
Yes.
Hi all. Wow. So sorry, everybody. The internet has gone out at the Brackett house, so now I'm on my phone, and that was very strange. So Maria, you'll have to help me place myself. Where were we, and what have we heard, and what didn't we hear? Oh, I think you're muted, Maria.
Yes, sir. You were just about to pass it over to me, and I had the panic attack because I thought it was something wrong with with my connection. So thanks for taking the fall for that, Vince.
You're
Thanks for setting us up. And I love that over the past 8 years, because I've been part of most of that, maybe 7-ish. Will be in December when I joined at a carol service. Just how dynamic this church community is and how we've been able to pivot, like you said, answering the questions that we started out with, but then also being able to pivot and change when we needed to, being vulnerable, taking a note out of Dr. Brene Brown's notes of, embracing the uncomfortableness. So I love how we've been able to grow that way, and not just our path is a part of this journey, is that it's not a straight line, and that's okay. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And we can get started, right, with the first question.
I think so. I'm just going to do it from the phone because the internet's not being nice to me here at the bracket home. So we're just going to do it this way. This is great. Speaking of pivoting and improving, right? That's what we have to do.
Yeah, I've already read out, what's playing at the Davis, so I'm out of material. Yes, so we'll start with the first question. What are the biggest volunteer needs as we look into 2022?
Yes, great question. So the biggest volunteer needs overall it's pretty simple. It's kids. That is the number one spot that especially as we think about currently Kyle being on sabbatical through the end of the year, kids is the largest area where we are hoping, and we've mentioned this before, it's important for us to figure out how we can come together to make more hybrid services happening. It's kind of connected to a little bit of our plans in terms of hybrid services. So I'm going to move my notes here so I just have them in front of me, since I had them somewhere else for before, and then I can share a little bit more with y'all. Here we go. Yeah. So, okay. And so, yeah, specifically, so when I say kids being the largest volunteer need right now, what I think that the biggest part of that is elementary aged kids. And so what our vision for a kids ministry, especially as now this is the week that kids are now able to start getting vaccinated. And that's very exciting. That means that a lot of the precautions that we've had to take in terms of a kids ministry and not have to worry as much about things like masks indoors, not have to worry as much about things like social distancing, not have to worry as much about things like being sure that we have a small group of people at all times. And so one of the things we've talked about is for elementary kids, our new imagination of a kids program for our Sundays when we're all together as a hybrid service, the local folks in Chicago, is that we would have all the kids with us during worship. We've been doing music and worship at the beginning of services, and that's a change from years prior. And then what we would do is as we would take the turn to our message for the day, that's when we would encourage kids to join our kids team for the day. They would make their way to a second theater at the theater and then have a kids program during the message. So it'd be about 30 to 45 minutes that we're talking about a commitment for volunteers if you're joining in with the elementary kids. And then after the message, they would return to service. And so we would have kids in with us for the final moments of service, usually for communion, where we're turning to our neighbors and seeing each other and saying, here we are together on one team, and we're going to have the kids a part of us with that. And so that's our new imagination of how a kids program is going to look. And we need 2 adults and a hybrid service to be able to pull that off with our elementary kids. Nursery is going to be in a separate space. And so that will be, our last hybrid service had this for the first time. So if you joined us for that, you'll know that we had one of the theaters that was set aside for nursery. And what we'll do is we're encouraging still at this point for everyone to bring their own toys or things to keep kids occupied. But we'll have some play panels out, making it softer, like easier space. We'll have a gate there that can be used to wall off
if that's useful for a period of time with your little ones. And then we'll have a simulcast running of the service. So you don't have to miss any of the service if you're in with nursery. Or you're there with your kids. It's just sort of like an overflow room where you can be okay with kids, being a bit loud if you have toddlers with you or younger kids. And so what that means is the nursery commitment, if you're a volunteer for that, is going to be during the whole service. And that would be the idea that you can give a parent a break. A parent can drop off a kid if they feel comfortable with that, and you would hang with them for the day, but you can still sit in and listen in on the service because it'll be on the screen. Whereas the elementary kids program will be during the message and only during the message. So that's a 30 to 45 minute commitment. So that's a number one volunteer need that we have right now is we actually have a number of people who've raised their hand for nursery, but in particular for elementary kids, we are ready to meet more regularly as a church. And when we have met in hybrid ways regularly, it's been awesome for our folks without kids. And what we're hoping for is we can make it awesome for our folks with kids very soon. So that's a number one need. There are a handful of other things. So I'm just going to throw them out there, Maria, for other things. We are looking to train one more audio tech. This is the most technical job in our church. So even if you've never been a technical person before, but you're not afraid of that kind of thing, we'd love for you to raise your hand for this. We have trained people who've had no audio experience beforehand. We've trained people up, and so they feel ready to go. So that doesn't scare us if it doesn't scare you. But yeah, so we want to train one more audio tech. We can never have enough general folks who are just raising their hand, I'll show up and make this place more hospitable. We would love to, plug you in and tell you a Sunday to show up early. Here's an interesting one. We are one of our wish lists. Our church board has not yet been able to say this officially yet financially, but what we are hoping for in the new year is that we're going to have a 5-hour a Sunday position that we're going to offer. And so it's a very part-time role that would be a sort of hospitality coordinator for every Sunday. And so anytime that we have a hybrid service, you would get paid for 5 hours that week. There'd be a little bit of prep time, probably about an hour of prep time, and then you have about 4 hours the day of a Sunday service. And that's a way that somebody can add to their own part-time work. So if that's of interest to people, we are hoping to be able to offer that in the new year, because that will help the experience of our hybrid services a bunch. And then lastly, I would say, and this is to folks who are local or who are from afar, we are looking for people who can host small groups of vaccinated individuals who are wanting to be in person every Sunday, even if we're online. And so a group of 6 or 7 individuals in this church that meet together to pray for the needs of our church. We are going to watch church together on a Sunday in December. It's going to be online church that Sunday, but we're all going to meet in the basement here and watch church together. And we're looking for other people who are saying yeah, totally, I'll open my home. Anybody can come and watch with us. That's something that you can do as simply as reach out to the friends that would enjoy watching church together on a Sunday and do that. Or if you if you are feeling a little bit more you've got a lot of energy for this, you can talk to me about doing an open invite thing. And you can say yeah, I'm happy to have anybody who wants to come. They can come and hang out in our living room if they're vaccinated, and we can watch together. So we're also looking for that, and that's something that's that's true for people who are in Chicago and beyond. So yeah, there's a fair number of volunteer needs, and then one possibly paid need that we're piecing together. But I suppose my headline is kids. We want people to say yeah, I'm gonna give 30 to 45 minutes on a Sunday to make this experience better for parents.
Thank you, Vince. And circling back to the kids volunteers, are there any notes about skills or things that they should keep in mind for volunteers?
Great question. Everybody who volunteers with kids goes through a simple background check with our church. So there's that requirement. But in terms of what you feel ready for, or how comfortable you are leading a room of kids, we can take somebody with any amount of comfort or skill in that, because we're it's always a team. You're never the only person who's thrust into this situation having to make it work by your own charisma with a bunch of kids. There's always going to be a team aspect to this. Also, every week that we have a kids program, you're not alone drawing up what's going to be done in that time. It's always, you're going to work on it with our pastoral staff. We will always have a plan ahead of time going into the Sundays if you're volunteering with us.
Great, thanks for that. So if anyone listening, watching right now is interested in volunteering, you can reach out to Abby Dye, but we will have a portion when we get to the end of today's meeting to be able to volunteer for that. So hang tight or reach out to Abby Dye, our moderator today. And we'll move on to the next question, which is, as the year has gone by very, very quickly, and all of a sudden we're in November, and what is the plan for in-person church for next year?
Yes. So the first thing that we'll say is in pastoral staff, what we were talking about this week is that we are going to do 2 hybrid services in December. That's what we're going to shoot for. So we're taking a step already. We're excited about that. We're going to have our hybrid services that are December 5th and no, is that right? Yeah, December 5th and December 19th. And December 19th will be our annual carols service. And that's the Sunday before Christmas. So we're excited about that. We're looking forward to that. The biggest risk in doing this is that is the idea that we want to be able to meet the needs of families. And so if we're saying like, hey, we're going to do it, we're going to have 2 hybrid services, we really want to be able to host those services with a kids program in the second theater during the message. And so we're sort of going with like the build it and the volunteers will come approach for that. So that's really exciting. We're going to move to 2 services and our goal would be to maintain that going forward. I've received a couple of times from people just personally the question like, what's holding us back from meeting every Sunday? Like why not every Sunday? And that is a totally valid question. I think the issue for us here is that there's a tension. Like we are a community of different and varied comfort levels when it comes to this stuff. And I think the measure of our community is how we honor and respect those differences and those varied comfort levels. So for people without kids, that's probably about half of us in the church. Hybrid services have been awesome. But as I mentioned, for people with kids, the hybrid services have had some challenges to them. And so it takes a lot of volunteers. We're a mobile church. We don't own our own building. And so we have to, we use space that we rent and then have to set those things up and tear a hybrid service happen in a way that an online service doesn't. And when we do that, if we're spending that people power and we're actually only serving half of our congregation, we sort of get into this, like we go back to the North Star that I started us with today of like, come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, right? Like, are we as a collective trying to relieve the burdens rather than add more burdens to people in that? I think those are the hard questions we're asking. And it's not always clear what the answer to that question is, but I kind of have considered it my job during this time as we're still, we're not quite at the point where everybody is vaccinated at the level or whatever it is, because we're still in that like murky area. I think my job is to like bring together these varied opinions and comfort levels, and then try to do risk assessment and try to figure out like, okay, is this worth the risk of, we go hybrid service every Sunday and then trust that, like the volunteers will show up for kids. Maybe do we do that or do we take steps toward that? And at least right now, what it occurs to us as the wisest course of action is to continue to take steps toward back to where we're meeting more regularly in a hybrid way or local folks can be in person. So what we're shooting for now, again, is starting next week, we would meet twice in that month in person. And then January, we would try to do the same. And then we can, especially as kids are getting vaccinated starting this week, we can revisit this soon. This might be different even in January, but at this point, that's what we're going for now.
Great, that's exciting. And again, I am on location of where we will be returning to in-person service. So grateful that I somewhat happenstance got to be here in time for the meeting on location. Yes. So moving on to our last question before we connect with Abby for any questions in the chat. And, as a member of the financial board, I do know some of this, but of course, you are able to share. What is the financial health of BLC?
Yes, thank you, Maria. And maybe you can fill in gaps if I miss something here. As I say, I think the headline is that we are stable financially, and that's great. It's really good news. We don't have anything to worry about. Our biggest financial priority as we look out in the future. Sorry, Haley, to put you on the spot here. Haley has been an intern with us for the last year. It was supposed to only be half a year, but she has graciously extended it through the year because it's been such a good thing for both her and us. And we want to hire Haley on part-time pastoral staff. And so that's our biggest priority, what we're shooting for. We're excited about that. The board is ready to move on that. And it's really just a matter of whether we can pull the trigger financially. So we're very stable, but this is why you've heard us mention a number of times that we have this like set in our sights, this idea of raising our monthly income to $12,000 a month. If we can get there by the end of the year, we can very comfortably hire Haley in this pastoral position. And then also a 5-hour a Sunday position that I was mentioning before to help make our hybrid service more hospitable. And so if I suppose we're very stable and we feel comfortable financially. I think we're in a good space where we have some questions to answer before the end of the year as we look toward 2022. But we're in a place where we're not struggling and we're not like looking over our shoulder being like, oh no. And that's really exciting. So, but we have in mind this $12,000 a month goal. Right now, I crunched some numbers this weekend. Our guaranteed income in a given month. So that just means like it's on a recurring cycle, right? Like it's not like something like people have to remember to give, but it's like set up on our website or it's set up via their bank. And our guaranteed income is $9,400 right now. So we know that because we can look at the numbers. But usually in a given month, we take in a little bit more than that. We take in something like $10,800, I think was our take this last month in October. So that's above what our guaranteed income. So that means like, every month there's a little bit of like wiggle, like some people, their jobs, they make money less regularly. It's not like a consistent paycheck. And so we'll get a gift, 3 or 4 times a year rather than once every month. And so that means that, right now, like if we're taking it, last month we took in 10,000, the month before that was 11,000. So we might be getting to the point where it's like more like, yeah, we're actually at that 12,000 a month threshold that really makes us feel safe. But if we can get that guaranteed income thing up closer to 12,000, I think the board will be very comfortable making all of these moves. And that's what I'm excited about. So if you have, we've said it a few times or over the course of the fall here, but I'll just, without sounding like an infomercial, if you've thought about giving or if that's something that's been on your radar, but I keep forgetting to do it. Make today the day you do it. If we see enough health by the end of this month, and especially by the end of December, our priorities become a reality, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting. And for those of you out there who aren't recurring donors or want to consider it, just keep an eye out for the financial update slides that come at the end of service every week or more information. But yeah, they're very exciting for Haley to join us. Definitely motivating.
That's right.
So let's pass this back to Abby to see if there's any questions from the audience before we bring this in for a close.
Good morning. Not a lot of questions right now, but I think one question that we would like to know about the elementary, like the kids program is what ages kind of is that? Are we thinking like, K through 5, or does that extend through like middle school to 8th grade as well?
Yes, great question. We're thinking K through 5. So we're thinking like school-aged kids are the ones that will be part of this program. If you're somebody who has middle school or older aged children and you're joining us right now in Zoom or wherever it is you're watching from, and you want to be a part of a conversation about middle school and high school and those sorts, like how we are serving those children and those families. We're actually having a conversation next Sunday after online service, and it's going to be a part of a breakout here. It's going to be a Zoom breakout room right after service. So that's something that's on our radar as well. And you're absolutely welcome to be a part of that. We want to hear your voices if that's you. And but for this, what we're talking about today, in terms of the kids program during service, 30 to 45 minutes during the message, that is something for like K to 5.
Thank you for clarifying.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone has other questions too, and you want to, just say them, that's fine. But if you also want to type them, I can relay those. We can give people another minute if they think of something.
Great. And so Abby is going to drop a link in the chat as well to fill out our stakeholder form. So even if you've done this in prior years, what we're asking today is for you to fill out our form to be listed among our official stakeholder role for 2021. It only takes about a minute. There aren't any items to vote on this year as there have been in the past, but there is a space for marking your interest in being a volunteer. Vince already talked through the different opportunities. So go ahead and mark that if you're curious. You don't have to hold it as a full-on commitment until you hear more. But we'd love to get a general sense of interest for volunteers and make that happen. And you'll also have a chance to be counted if you miss out on it today. We'll have an email that goes out and also Discord reminders. So while that's going on, Vince, can I pass it back over to you for comedic stylings until we close out for today?
Yes, my goal is to be as awkward and accidentally comedic as possible during this time, because we'll remind you what Maria just said. There is a link in the chat or in Discord right now, no matter where it is you are watching. And we would love for you, if you consider yourself somebody who calls Brown Line Church home, to follow that link and fill out the form. And I will awkwardly say it once more, that is what we are doing right now. I am in fact filling space right here with empty calorie discussion, with nothing really to say. Everything
I have
I'm
something
about
to say, Vince.
Oh, wait, Abby has something to say of substance. Thank you. Please, Abby, take it away.
Come on, stop. Okay. So Brittany was wondering too, are we waiting until kids service is more stabilized to begin meeting weekly?
That is, yes, that I would say that is a good summation of what's happening. I don't think that is the only factor that's going on. Mm-hmm. It is quite complicated. We have a real mixed set of experiences and comfort levels and desires. And kids is probably like the biggest here, but so yes, it's partly yes, the answer to that question.
Okay, thank you. That was just kind of a clarifying too. So thank you. You can keep filling the space.
Can I keep? Oh, I can just keep. I mean, have we had a long enough time now for everybody to follow that link and say, you know what, I call this church home. And even though I've done this in years past, actually, here's something that's not empty calories. Why do we do it this way? So we, as we say a number of times throughout the year, we are not a church that has a classic membership, in that we don't ask people to read a statement of faith and then sign on the dotted line below that they agree. Instead, we talk about having stakeholders here. We have people who invest in this church because they care about being a part of this community, not just for their own experience, but also for the experience of other people. They want to be invested here in the project of what happens here. So if that's you, if that seems to describe you as you think about, I'm a part of this, and then we would love for you to fill out this form. And if you've done it in years past, we do this every year. We ask everybody to re-up, because it's not like you're a member for once and for all. Things change, and we know that new people join us, and so we want to keep current and understanding of who are the invested individuals in this church. So that's why I've filled all of this empty space with just talking, so that you could follow that link and do it. And I'm going to trust that now you have done it. Thank you, oh wonderful stakeholders of Brown Line Church, for following the link and filling that out for us. Okay, I think, Maria, is there anything else that you feel it's important for us to touch on before we move to a close of our service?
No, other than, thank everyone for joining. And if you can get outside, it's a beautiful day. live broadcast at the Davis happened to work out pretty well this morning. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Maria. And, boy, this was not how I envisioned today's meeting going, having to switch to my phone midstream. It was a little bit wild with internet problems here in Chicago. Yeah. But pass the baton back, settle our hearts and our mind to close.
So each week we close our time together with a practice of communion. Followers of Jesus have come together throughout time and across cultures using different elements to remember Jesus's blood shed and body broken. And so today we come together from our own spaces to take part in this practice together. If you would like to participate, I'd encourage you to go and find your own food and drink to use. And if you're comfortable doing so, I'd also encourage you to turn on your camera so that we can see more of our community gathered here together this morning from our own spaces. So this is a chance for us to remember both individually and communally that we are in need of the grace and compassion found in the life and death and resurrection of Jesus. In communion, we acknowledge this dependence on God as a source of sustaining peace and abundant love. So you'll take a few moments here just to breathe and to be still. And if you need to go find communion elements, you can do that now. On the night that Jesus was betrayed, he shared a meal with his friends. He broke bread, gave thanks, and said, "This is my body, which is broken for you. Whenever you eat this, do so in remembrance of me." Likewise, he took the cup and said, "This is my blood poured out for you. Whenever you drink this, do so in remembrance of me." And loving God, we thank you for the ways that you guide us in community, the ways that you provide peace in chaos. I pray that as we remember you, we remember comfort and hope. We remember the gift of joyfully joining into the work that you've already begun. May we be people who pause, people who rest, people who look ahead and dream, people who look to right now and listen. God, would you sustain us and give us hope for vision and all that is coming. We thank you for the way that you provide anytime that we are gathered, whether it's from our own spaces, whether it's live and at the Davis, God, just for the flexibility and the different ways that community has formed over the years at Brownline. We thank you for all that you have done, all that you are doing, and all that you will do. In your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, everybody, for joining for our online technical difficulty, but awesome annual meeting. It was great to have you all. I will say, for anyone who was worried, we met quorum. So good job, everybody. And thank you to Haley. Thank you to Maria. Thank you to Abby. Thank you to Lara. And thank you to Kezia for making today happen. We'll see you all next Sunday with a special guest for our message next week. Pastoral care team folks, since we're sticking around for a breakout, hang tight because I'm going to go back to my computer and then we'll continue. See you in a minute.
I think it's